You're
that are
just
watching
dumb.
this fact checking.
You don't know what you're talking about, dude.
Happening, I would have ended the war in 48 hours, and it would have been a mass casualty situation.
It's been a while since we've had a Dave Smith debate. Here we have him back on Piers Morgan, and he is going to be debating this Officer Tatum character. But let's go ahead and watch this together, react. If you want to go ahead and watch the original clip, I will link it down in the description below. And other than that, here we go.
And listen, man, we don't know each other, but literally the only interaction we've ever had is you called me, I think, a devil and one of the worst people in America the other day, also for sharing a clip disgusting. Of somebody else.
No.
Devil.
I'm glad you brought it up. Because there's a reason why I said that. It's not that I somehow mentioned something about you just in passing. You shared a post of one of the most disingenuous, evil individuals that I've ever seen online. Nick Fuentes shamed Charlie. Ever since 2017, he would come out, harass, accost Charlie at events. He would harass his wife. Him and the gropers would harass my wife because she's white. And this guy said Charlie is a fake Christian and he's disgusting and he should never be able to be on campus without being shouted down. And then he comes out and makes a fake apology. And I felt like you supported that. And then also my art with you. I had never met you before. I disagree with you on Israel, but I respect that you come with your opinions. But when you were on stage at SAS and you chastised those young people and said they can never claim to be pro-life ever again because they support a genocide, I thought that was the most disgusting thing that any adult man could say to young kids who was just seeking the truth and openly listening to a debate between you and another individual. So the only reason I said that is based on those principles alone. I don't know you personally, but I thought that was disgusting. And anybody who support that Nick Fuentes guy who shamed my friend who's now dead, it bothers me to no end.
Dave?
I agree on the Nick Fuentes. I'll speak before Dave, but I agree on the Nick Fuentes thing, although this guy, Tatum, definitely despises Nick Fuentes, probably explicitly regarding Israel related discourse and policy. Again, Nick Fuentes is kind of a complicated character, but he's definitely not, a good guy in all this. That being said, this guy saying that Dave Smith is disgusting because he said that people that are pro-Israel or pro-Israeli genocide cannot call themselves pro-life. That is just a logical statement. It just boils down to logic. My assumption is Officer Tatum doesn't really have a shred of logic running through his bones. Anyway, let's see what Dave Smith has to say.
Okay, well, look, I mean, again, I said I give him all the credit in the world for this. And what was this? This was after Charlie Kirk was killed, him saying that he was a good man, that he's praying for his soul, and urging his supporters not to be violent in response to this. And I got to say, I thought, as I think many of us did, immediately after Charlie was killed, and immediately after your first reaction of feeling so horrible on a personal level for his family, you realize this is a very dangerous situation. And I got to say, for Nick Fuentes, being who he is, to have him telling his audience, hey, if you respond at all with violence to this, I completely disown you. We need to be Christians about this. We need to be peaceful. We should be praying for him and his family. I give him credit for that. Whatever other beef you got with him, that's between you two. I didn't say I agree with the guy on everything he's ever said. Well, hold on. Let me just respond. I didn't endorse everything the guy's ever said. I said I give him all the credit in the world for this, and then shared the clip of this. Pretty clear what I was saying. And by the way, I didn't chastise the kids at Charlie Kirk's event. I warned them. I warned them that if you're supporting the destruction of a captive, stateless people in Gaza right now, that you will never be able to claim to be pro-life again without being rightfully viewed as the biggest hypocrite in the universe. That's an opinion that I will gladly defend. And I noticed in there, you're not actually taking on that argument. You're just telling me how disgusting I am for having it. So listen, man, I think that if there's one thing Charlie would have wanted, it probably would have been for us to have this conversation without devolving into insults. You can say it's disgusting if you want to. I think there's a pretty strong argument for my point there. I think it's kind of undeniable. There's a real conflict between being pro-life and then also supporting a policy, the price tag of which is tens of thousands of slaughtered babies, children.
Well, on that point, Officer Tatum, let me, I will let you respond, but let me just put that directly to you, because one of the reasons that I've become increasingly critical of Netanyahu's government, and you interviewed Netanyahu a couple of weeks ago on your YouTube show, and we'll play a clip from that in a moment, but one of my, and he won't do my show, just for the record, since the war started, because I think one of the reasons he won't do me is because I would say to him, you're not achieving any of your war aims. You know, you're not getting the hostages released. In fact, if anything, I'd say you're imperiling their lives more every day this goes on. You're not defeating Hamas, that much is clear. You're causing endless more devastation. Your cabinet right-wing members like Smodrich, Ben-Gvir and others, they're talking openly about ethnically cleansing all the Palestinians. You know, are you not concerned, Officer Tatum, with a fair-minded head about this, that actually it is no longer about a retaliatory self-defensive strike for what happens on October the 7th, but part of a much bigger plan, which many on the hard right in Israel have harbored for a long time, to displace Palestinians from their home in Gaza and from large swathes of the West Bank? Does that not concern you?
Okay, great question. Let me address a few things. I think that Nick Fuentes is disingenuous, and I felt like Dave Smith is intelligent enough, and I'm not challenging your intelligence, but I believe that you can see through the bullcrap on so many other people, and I felt like you should have seen the bullcrap through Nick Fuentes, because he's just saying that to save face now that Charlie is dead, and all the way up to his death, he shamed him. When it comes to the pro-life situation, there's a very big difference between articulating whether a person believes that life starts at conception, not perception, versus a person disagreeing with urban warfare and the way that Israel is carrying out their attacks in Gaza. That's two different things. They should not be conflated. When it comes to my concerns for Benjamin Netanyahu and his tactics in Israel, or his tactics against Gaza, there's a few things here. I think that Benjamin Netanyahu, and because the nature of the interview wasn't really a debate, it was more so me asking him questions that my audience wanted me to ask him and him putting the answers out there, and people can debate that. But I think a lot of people that I know in Israel, including myself and others that are staunch Zionists, think that he is prolonging the war too long and is causing too much damage and irreversible reputational damage. He should have ended it sooner, and he should have went harder. In America, if we had faced such brutality, rape, people getting their heads cut off. I saw videos of people getting their heads cut off. We would have been swift. Within 48 hours, we would have caused the most damage that you've ever seen to a country in world history. And Netanyahu, for whatever reason, is capitulating, in my personal opinion, to his own personal image, and that he don't want to look bad. He don't want to be shamed. He don't want people to say that he's committing a genocide. So he's playing in the middle for too long. 2 years of this war is too much.
He's playing in the middle. We don't know how many civilians. This is sickening. This is disturbing. This is sickening. This is gut-wrenching. I mean, this guy talking about Israel should be going harder. They should be killing more civilians. They should be destroying more families and property and displacing more. Like, what more could you want, you absolute savage? Like, this is, I can't believe these words are coming out of his mouth. That Netanyahu is going too soft on these people. I just can't believe it. I mean,
he should have eliminated Hamas immediately, and he should not worry about the naysayers. He's darned if he do, he's darned if he don't. He is not committing a genocide in Gaza. I think that's disingenuous at best, because no one committing a genocide would be giving food or aid to a people that they're trying to kill. They would not be sending leaflets.
After they shut down aid for months on end and literally arrested people that were sending aid flotillas, or they went and arrested and shut down aid flotillas from going in. Like, this is just bad propaganda. I mean, this isn't even a good attempt at running cover for this absolute atrocity. This is sickening stuff.
And advising people of buildings as they're going to tear down. The population has grown in Gaza from 1948 all the way up until today. 500,000 they started with. They're at 2 million at this point. When did the genocide start? There is no genocide. People.
Oh my God. After 50 years, they had population growth. Great. Just like every other, human population over the last 80 years or whatever. Have you looked at the population numbers in the last 2 years? How they've gone from, what was it, around like 2.2 million to what do they say now, about 1.8 million? So how many of those have been displaced? How many of those are actually people that are dead or missing? Like, this is atrociously disgusting and disturbing lies and obfuscations and propaganda.
You can argue the tactics that Netanyahu is displaying in Gaza, but you cannot be superfluous and add these arguments that seems to, in my opinion, be anti-Semitic in many ways. It's not.
There he goes. After they spend the whole first part of it talking, let's not use the, he just said to himself, I don't like using the anti-Semitic argument. I think it gets overused and all that. And then he goes and drops it like not 5 minutes later.
These people are terrorists, and not the Gazan people, the regular everyday individual, the terrorist group that came into a country and attempted to commit a genocide against Israel. They would have committed a genocide against Israel to a large proportion if it wasn't for the IDF and if it wasn't for the Iron Dome. Let's not forget they shot 4,000 missiles into Israel. They tried to kill everybody. The IDF is going in strategically.
They know that they have the Iron Dome, and so I'm not justifying any of this. It's just logically what's happening is that they would send a barrage of missiles as such because they know if we send 4,000, maybe one or two will get in, and do something. It's not that they think that all four, they know that they have the Iron Dome and they know that it's not going to work. So again, it's just completely disingenuous.
I wish that people had not died. I wish that they could end the war so there's no suffering. I wish that Hamas wasn't stealing food. The UN confirmed that 96% of all the aid is being looted. I wish that Hamas wasn't doing those things. I wish Dave Smith would jump in. None of that is true. This is again, Israeli propaganda talking points. None of that's confirmed. The Hamas isn't stealing large proportions. In fact, they confirmed the exact opposite is happening. Hamas will take the approach of Israel, which means when the rockets go flying into Israel, the people go into bomb shelters. When rockets go flying into Gaza, the terrorists go into bomb shelters, and they make their people stay above ground to be the blunt force of what they receive in a war that they started for no reason. Hamas knew they could never beat
for no reason
the IDF in Israel. Why did they start the war? Why did they initiate conflict? Why did they rape people and do things like that and videotape it? Why do they still have hostages? And
you know the unpalatable answer, Officer Tatum. I'll come to Dave Smith as well, but the unpalatable answer to that, maybe they did it precisely to goad Israel into a massive overreaction, which would then make Israel and its government in particular hugely unpopular around the world, to the extent that the United Nations is convening today with the UK declaring a state of Palestine. They're going to be followed by other countries. Only really America and Israel's opposing this, but it may well be that Hamas, being a bunch of evil terrorists, thought if we do this, Israel will massively overreact. They don't care about their own people dying. That's completely obvious. And it could well play into our longer term game plan. Who knows? But it could be that.
Just like Osama bin Laden goaded George Bush and Dick Cheney into getting embroiled in Iraq and Afghanistan, trillions and trillions of dollars later, thousands of lives lost, wasted resources, and we are bankrupt as a country, failing as a state, and we have never been in a weaker position as a country. And it is a pretty... it is a playbook that is out there that they were able to take advantage of. And of course, Israel fell for it. And that just seems to be the obvious answer.
Okay, so they've fallen for a hideous sucker punch. Dave Smith, your response to, a lot to unpack there, but your response. And then also taking in this news today about countries like the UK, declaring there is a state of Palestine.
Sure. Well, I mean, I don't know. I think Brandon kind of almost hit every single talking point there. So I don't know. I mean, I've
literally, like, if you just go back in the last 2 years and just like, if you had like a notepad or like a checklist of all of the rank propaganda nonsense talking points from that side, and like not even like the A list, that was like the B and the C list, like shit, garbage, like trash, slop talking points. That was just like rattling that off one after another. It's no wonder Netanyahu would have gone on this guy's show, because he knows what a fucking slop fest it would be.
Been knocking all these down for years on your show here. The bottom line is just that it is just, look, to sit here and say that even as you say, obviously, Piers, it's not like Hamas had to be rocket scientists to figure this out. This is what terrorism is. It's asymmetrical warfare. The action is in the reaction. Osama bin Laden didn't think he could take down the United States of America by taking out our towers. He thought he could lure us into a war in Afghanistan and that might bankrupt us. It was the plan that our CIA coached him through in the late 70s and early 80s with luring the Soviets into Afghanistan. And so the idea that, and look, we did it. We blew $8 trillion in the Middle East since then. And so that's the idea here. And Israel's completely fallen into the trap. But of course, the reason why that Israel has done irreversible reputational damage, the reason why people are abandoning supporting this is really just twofold. Number one, it's clearly not in America's interest. And number two, this is just indefensible. Even if you say that, hey, look, Hamas goes down into the bomb shelters and leaves the civilians up there to be bombed. Okay, but then ain't there a moral question about whether it's the right thing to do to just drop those bombs on the civilians when you know the terrorists are down in the towers? Hold on, you had a chance to go through all this stuff. So
I know, but I want you to. Can I just?
You just went off on every talking point.
And I'll shut up. No, just explain that
okay,
too.
But I'm just going to finish. I'm just going to finish.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm going to finish what I did. Well, what they should do is embrace a two-state solution. Ultimately, they should stop occupying a people as they've been
done
doing
it 5 times,
years.
and the Arabs rejected it.
They haven't. Now
5 times, and the Arabs rejected it.
Yeah, I get it. I know you're going to hit every Hasbro talking point. That's not true.
There's
been
facts.
Lots of books. No, it's not. It's a talking point. It is not true. The Palestinians have never once been offered a full-fledged state. There is not one of those 5 times that they were ever offered a full state. Even, by the way, that's not even your own Hasbro talking point. You're supposed to say 97% of what they wanted, which also is a lie. The point is that it doesn't, no matter what you're going to say here, Israel propped up Hamas for years to keep them in power so that Netanyahu could thwart the creation of a Palestinian state, to then use them as a justification for mass slaughtering a captive people that you have kept stateless for 60 years is morally indefensible. And I'm sorry, I didn't realize I had to actually paint the full thing out. When I was talking about the pro-life analogy, yes, being pro-life is about believing that life begins at conception, but baked in there is also the assumption that you think it's wrong to murder kids. The point is that, yes, if you're pro-life, then you also
murder kids.
Apparently you do.
Yes, but you're supporting a policy that is doing just that.
There's no policy to murder kids. It's urban warfare. Unfortunately, people die. There's no policy. Show me the policy that says you should murder kids in this.
Okay. Yes, I'm sorry. Yes, that is. Look, when you make a decision to drop a bomb on a building where you know there are children inside of it, yes, morally speaking,
leaflets,
you murdered those children.
Phone calls. You told them
so
to
the leaflets
evacuate.
Make it not murder. Okay. So how about when they don't?
There's no.
How about this last attack?
There's no intent to murder them.
Wait, let me ask you a question. Follow up. How about when they don't? What about when they don't drop leaflets? What about when they don't have evacuation orders? They just did this in Gaza City yesterday. How about that? Is that now murder?
Well,
I just took away your excuses.
No. I could give you an example. They don't have to drop leaflets and give phone calls if they're
so then why are you bringing that up?
I'm saying when you're shooting weapons and Hamas is firing weapons and using it as a military base, they don't have to give leaflets to give evacuation. Instead, if it's a civilian building or something where they can eliminate having casualties, they will do that to the best of their ability. But there's some instances where they can't give notification because Hamas is operating out of these hospitals, operating out of mosques. Right. And they have to do what they have to do in this warfare.
They have to. No, they don't. They actually don't have to.
What should they do then? What should they do?
By the way, I love Piers. What should they do? I love I love Piers. I think it was Aaron Matei who coined this phrase. I could be wrong about that, but someone said the entire Israeli case rests on you saying that nothing justifies October 7th, but October 7th justifies anything. Like nothing. You're sitting here. Yes. Look, you can pick one side or the other. One second. You can pick one side. I'll answer that question, but just interrupting my point with that question over and over again is just so I can't make my case. There is no. You can go tit for tat here. There's been terrorism on both sides. Israel has been occupying Gaza and the West Bank / and or controlling Gaza and the West Bank since 1967. There's going to be resistance to that. And then for you to say that resistance now justifies us slaughtering people by the tens of thousands, destroying all of Gaza is just, there's no logic in it. There's no morality in it. What should Israel have done? Number one, Benjamin Netanyahu should have resigned on October 8th. After his plan to prop up Hamas, being this genius right-winger that I'm going to keep Hamas in power because, in his words, he could control the height of the flame and this will balance things and thwart a Palestinian state. When that blew up in his face, he should have resigned in disgrace that day. They should have had a real investigation about what actually happened on October 7th. Our late friend had some questions about that, didn't he?
Yeah, he did.
They should have really looked into that, which we've never gotten to the bottom of. And then they should have done surgical strikes, targeted assassinations, as Israel has always done throughout their entire history with the terrorism problem. They have never, until Netanyahu, treated it as a problem for the regular old army, and it should have culminated in a real peace process. They should have said, we are going to take out the people responsible for this by targeted strikes, and at the end of that, we're ending the occupation. We're giving all of East Jerusalem, all of the West Bank, and all of Gaza to the Arabs. It's their decision what they want to do in the future. But if we are attacked, we will treat them as a foreign nation and go to war with them. That's what the response to October 7th.
And by the way, Officer Tatum,
this.
I think the biggest mistake Netanyahu has made, of many actually, in terms of tactics and strategy, was the attack in Doha, which failed. It didn't kill any of the Hamas commanders. But the amount of fury that has created amongst the Arab countries, from Saudi Arabia, the UAE and others, but also apparently, according to Haaretz, amongst Mossad, who are absolutely furious about that attack on one of America's main allies in the Middle East, someone with 10,000 American troops in a base there, to just attack with impunity Qatar and to attack people who were at that moment deliberating over a potential peace plan. And then to fail anyway, so you cause all the mayhem without achieving the goal. It seemed to me symptomatic of where Netanyahu's got to. He's not achieving any of the goals here. He's just making things worse and worse.
I think that one could argue that. I'm not disagreeing. I think that there needs to be an investigation into it and figure out what should we do and what should we not do. America knew that he was going to do the attack. There's no way in the world Israeli jets could fly through airspace without America knowing about it and do that attack. So America gave the green light pretty much. And then we go, I want to go back to some of the things that Dave Smith said. You know, it sounds cute to act as if they're just indiscriminately bombing people. They're doing strategic strikes. They have to get approval to do strikes. We know that they're doing it. People don't like it. It's ugly. I get it. I hate that it's happening. I would have ended the war in 48 hours and it would have been a mass casualty situation. However, we would have been done quicker and it would have been 2 years.
What the fuck does that even mean? I would have done it in 48 hours. It would have been a mass casualty situation. Is he talking about like dropping a tactical nuke on Gaza City, wiping out like 1 million Palestinians, and then like what? You're not accomplishing the thing anyway. Like you're still gonna have Hamas, or if not, you're gonna create other versions of Hamas or other offshoots or whatever. It's like this guy's a complete dunce. Like this is ridiculous.
Two-state solution idea. They don't. Why are we lying to ourselves? They don't want a two-state solution. They want Israel to be absolved. They do not want a Jewish state. They made it clear. I don't know for how many years. Netanyahu, they removed Jews from Gaza and gave it to them. And what did they do in return? They elected a terrorist organization that extracted funding and resources from them to build tunnels to create terrorism against Israel. They cannot live in peace with these people. They continue to fight against Israel and the Jewish state. And I don't understand why we're acting as if that's not so. They've given them their own sovereignty to a certain degree. Imagine if they had their own state.
Officer Tatum, do you think
they've given them their own sovereignty to a certain degree? This guy's mental.
Do you think, Officer Tatum, that Palestinians should have the same rights, human rights, as Israelis?
Let me put it in perspective.
Yes, just say yes. Oh my God, Jesus Christ.
Same rights, human rights, as Israelis.
Let me put it in perspective. There was a war that was fought.
It's a yes or no.
I will. Let me get to it. I will.
No, you can't equivocate. You either believe that or you don't. The reason I'm asking you, it's so central.
Let me start with your. Let me answer your question first.
It's so central.
Let me answer your question first. Yes.
Okay. Good.
The answer is yes. Good. Let me articulate that there was a war fought, and Israel won the war, so they don't have to do anything for anybody.
Wait, what war? What war are you talking about?
1948. Was that not
there was
a war that was fought? They got attacked on all sides.
There's been many wars
after they
since
rejected
then.
the two-state solution. After they rejected the two-state solution, a war was fought. They won. Every war that has been fought, Israel has won. They've been victorious. They don't owe Palestinians anything, but they're peaceful people.
Which war gave them? Which war gave them the right?
They don't owe them. They don't owe Palestinians anything.
Right. Yeah. No, actually, I mean, they only owe them what we all owe each other, I suppose. But what
I mean,
war
you can make
Israel,
you can make that argument, but that's not a real argument.
Yeah, it is. What war did Israel win that gave them the right to occupy the Palestinians in perpetuity for all of history?
Let's bring into, but first of all, I don't know why you think it's an occupation. Jews have lived in Israel since the beginning of time, never ceasing to exist in Israel. They were the majority, became the minority.
Yes,
they
those
never
two
ceased to
things
exist
are not
in Israel.
related at all.
Let me finish. Let me finish. What I'm saying is that
I
you're
think it's
acting
an
as if
occupation
Jews don't
because
have
it's a military occupation.
What I'm saying is that Jews have entitlement to the land. Palestinians don't have exclusive entitlement. So when a war is fought, the Jews can make the decision what they do with Palestinians or not. Just like in America, we can say what we want to do with the Native Americans or not.
Ask you,
let me finish. Let me finish my point and I'll answer your question.
This is a sick bastard, guys. I'm really this is disturbing stuff.
Sure.
Just real quick, it'll be a couple seconds. But because we have humanity and dignity, we allow for Native Americans in America to have reservations, and we support them in all of the above. Because
we left them with fucking smidges of little tiny smudges in the middle of New Mexico and shit.
Israel and Jews have dignity. They allowed them to have swaths of the West Bank, and they allowed them to have Gaza, where they elected their own government system. Now, do Israel have control? I see why. Can't you see? If they had absolutely no control, they had no idea what was coming in through the southern border, through the sea, how much more of a terrorist attack would we see in Israel? It would be even more massive. So I understand that. But when they were offered a two-state solution, why did they reject it?
All right, Dave.
Again, I don't know what period of time you're talking about, what war you're talking about, but so here's a major difference. You might notice this, Piers, between Native Americans, say in the United States of America. They have citizenship and voting rights, and so at a certain point, if you're going to say yes, that's right. Now, how about the Palestinians living under Israeli control in the West Bank? They do not have citizenship or voting rights.
And so if they don't have citizenship in Israel.
Right,
they
and
do.
Israel's the government that's
elections.
Controlling.
They have elections, don't they?
Listen, Brandon, think about what you're advocating for. That's not you're not addressing the point here. They don't have citizenship in that. You just said that. Hey, you understand why Israel is going to control these areas because in your estimation, there'd be more violence if they didn't control these areas. Now, I disagree with that estimation, but whatever. Okay, but then you're saying Israel has control and these people don't have citizenship or voting rights in Israel. If Israel is controlling Gaza and the West Bank and they've got millions of people there who don't have citizenship or voting rights, don't have any say in that government, what would you call that? By the way, we could I could make the argument that there'd be less crime if we just occupied high crime black neighborhoods in America, stripped all the people of their voting rights, of their civil rights, of their natural rights, and we just had a military occupation. But I think we would all accept you're not allowed to do that to people because we're
Dave, your argument
living
is
in the
not
post-Enlightenment.
Your argument is not a real argument. They don't
you keep saying that, but you can't take
Gaza.
it on.
Hey, listen, okay, let's give it. If they actually
not control Gaza, oh my God, all they do is control Gaza.
Control Gaza.
No. If they actually control Gaza, okay, let me answer. If they actually control Gaza the way you're saying it, they would have never elected Hamas, and they would have never built tunnels, and they would never stole funding and manipulated the people, and they would never treat women the way they do, and they would never throw people off buildings.
Why would they have never done that? Why would they have never done that if what I'm saying is true?
If Israel controlled them, they don't control them. They left them to their own devices.
Okay, so just to be
and in the West Bank,
just be very clear.
The PLO has manipulated the people. That's why they have a separate election in Gaza, because the PLO had manipulated the people in the West Bank, and they didn't want that governance. So they are governing themselves. Okay. However, you will never see. I've been to Israel. You will never see Jews in Palestine, or what you call the West Bank. You will never see them in Gaza. But there are hundreds of thousands of Arabs and Palestinians that work in Israel. I was there. I saw it. I'm even surprised October
nobody's
7th
denying
happened.
that. No, yeah, everybody knows. Israel.
What I'm saying is that Israel is
Okay.
not treating Palestinians the way that people are acting like they are.
Okay, I want to.
They gave them freedom.
Okay,
and allowed them to do what they need to do.
I've got to wrap things.
Yeah.
I've got to wrap things. But I wanted to ask Dave
there.
one question before we wrap. It's just this: this decision by the UK and other countries to declare a state of Palestine has been, ridiculed by Israelis as simply playing into Hamas's hands, giving them a reward for October the 7th. Is it meaningful to you at all?
Well, I mean, yeah, I think it's somewhat me. I mean, look, it's obviously a gesture more than anything else, but I do think it's significant that there's at least the feeling that there's a need to make the gesture. I think is a result of public opinion shifting so greatly on this. But I got to say to this, look, first of all, I'll just say a couple things. Number one, right after 9/11, it was Colin Powell, the wisest member of George W. Bush's government, which is not saying much, who went to George W. Bush and said, you got to do a two-state solution now. Like, you have record high approval ratings. 9/11 just happened. This is the time we can get it done. And the reason Colin Powell said that was not because he wanted to give the Palestinians something, but because he knew that this was right at the center of the cause of why there's so much hatred for Americans in the Muslim world. And that we had every single president of my lifetime, with the exception of Trump, wanted a two-state solution. None of them could ever get it done. None of them could ever get it done, in large part because of the enormous power of the Israel lobby in the United States of America.
The Arabs rejected it. Israel agreed.
I know. We heard you say that. Anyway.
No, you need to talk about that.
You're wrong, but okay.
Every single two-state solution.
Okay, yeah, right. Okay. Anyway,
you're telling me I'm wrong?
You know what?
For the 15th time, you're 100% wrong. Benjamin Netanyahu, the longest-serving prime minister, in Israeli history, has made at the center of his entire career thwarting a Palestinian state. He has said this in his own words over again. You don't know what you're talking about if you think that Israel has just been trying. No,
people
you're
that are
just
watching
dumb.
this fact check.
You don't know what you're talking about, dude.
Now you want to attack
You're calling me a liar.
Address the
you're
issue.
calling me a liar, dude, and you're full of shit. You don't know shit.
Factual.
You don't know
I'll tell you, Officer Tatum.
Wait a
sec. I actually think.
I did what?
If you want, I actually think.
IDF.
Listen, Officer Tatum. I've interviewed Bill Clinton a number of times, and he was emphatic about the fact the closest they came was when he says Arafat walked away from what many people now see was probably the best deal that was ever going to be on the table. I also think the assassination of Rabin was one of those moments from which I don't think anything has ever really recovered from that. Killed by an extremist on his own side. Right?
By a Netanyahu fan.
Right, and that may well be one of the reasons Netanyahu doesn't want to go down the same road. We just don't know. He acts in self-interest and everything else. Look, I've got to leave it there. I'm sorry. It's been a great debate. You guys have been great. I really appreciate it. But I have got to move on. Thank you both very much indeed.
Wow. All right. Well, there you have it. It's been a while since we took a look at one of those debates. Obviously, I mean, that's just too easy for Dave Smith. This guy is a complete talking point propaganda machine. Didn't really know what he was talking about. Kind of embarrassing, kind of disturbing, actually very disturbing. Let me know what you guys thought about that in the comments. Drop a like, comment, and I will see you guys in the next video.